So I finally managed to get the gears out of the struck. See if I can get a close-up of this one here. This is not a trick of the camera. These were actually bent over. So that gear has been bent every time they tried to put the clutch on. I finally managed to get the shafts out of this unit. It took quite a bit of doing because these little end bearings, they did not want to come off. It took me about $300 worth of PB brake to get these things to come off. Finally get them off. The bearings are actually still good in here. They spin fine, so I won't have to replace them, which is good because these would probably be fun to try and locate. I got the brand new pulleys on there. So the pulleys are ready to go. And then eventually, well, not eventually, very soon I hope, that mess is all going to go in here. So what we have in here, even though it looks incredibly bad right now, the inner pulleys go to the bottom rail, the outer pulleys go to the top rail. And I'll show you what we have here. These will move that stuff back and forth. So when you push forward, it essentially applies tension to the top belt. So if these belts were back into position, when you push forward, it would apply tension to that belt and release tension to the second belt. And I still have that one last gear to remove. So that gear right there's got to go, because that little gem is the last one as far as the gear set goes. I got the other two large gears taken out. The rods are removed now, so you can actually see through here pretty well. And I got the gear set off the motor. And here's my pulley for the motor. This is a nice fixed one. And here's my idler that will replace the idler gear that's down there. And then once I get everything in there, I'll set up the tension, and I'll probably actually have to reposition this exhaust as well, because right now it blows right into your face and your left hand, which is really not all that much fun. So a couple other things that I'll be doing to this is I need to remove that idler wheel that they stuck in there in the center. That came off from a lawnmower or something like that, and I think they just put that in there because they couldn't figure out how to tension the tracks anymore. I'll probably end up taking one link out of the track, and then I'll have to remove this little mess up front here. This little cotter pin setup kind of just sat in there and spun, and there was nothing else around it, and everything slid back and forth, and it was a mess. So I put the ring around it. That is not what it requires. What it actually requires is a bolt that goes straight through, and then you tighten it up there, kind of like a motorcycle or a bicycle. So we were both wrong. I was less wrong. At least my system kind of worked. Theirs, it threw the chain about every 2 minutes. So I figured that out because I downloaded the manual online, and it showed me a lot of nice things like that. That piece in there is supposed to remain fixed and not spin. I thought because it was rusted solid to the axle that it was supposed to be spinning with it. It's not. So here's something interesting that I ran into. The belt was sitting way far down inside of this groove here. So it turns out that this is an adjustable pulley. This piece here is threaded, so the more you turn this, it'll open up farther, and the pulley will sit down farther. Unfortunately, that set it off from the width of the other pulley that's down here. And I've got the belt here. If I put it inside, it's hard to see that, but right now it's even. Before it set in almost 1/4 of an inch down into the groove, which, like I said, it effectively changed the gear ratio on one side, so that wasn't throwing it off. So that's the first time I've actually run into an adjustable pulley like this. I've got the idler pulley in there. I've got a test belt in. I was checking the alignment, and the alignment's fairly well off. So, and by off I mean screwed up as much as it can possibly be. So I'm going to have to move that over, and when you look at this, the existing pulleys, the belts had flown off this thing a few times, and I think I can see why, because I'm perfectly parallel to it, and you can see that it's shifted off to one side, And it's the same deal over here. These are slightly off as well. So I'll probably have to undo the lock screws here and slide it over a little bit to get it lined back up again. Okay, so here I have the two 5-inch pulleys set into place. My idler's in place, and then at this point all I have to do is get the one on the motor, and then I'll be able to take my measurement of how long the AA belt needs to be, because the AA belt has to go around almost in like a pattern over one and then under the other. So it's going to be, well, can't really see it from here, but it's going to be more of like an S shape that the belt has to go into. Okay, I have the engine pulley on. The other pulleys are in position. Now all I have to do is run a piece of rope through. So if this was hard to visualize before, probably not much better now. Let's see, you can see how that orange extension cord now is being used for the belt. It goes up, over, down below the tensioner. From underneath the tensioner, that bottom leg goes right back to the bottom part of your front pulley. The top part of your front pulley comes back through here, goes, oops, gotta back up a little bit, goes around your bottom pulley, the bottom large pulley, and comes up through and around. So when you pull that thing, they should move in opposite directions. Let me see if I can kind of semi-simulate this, just to give you an idea what this is supposed to do. This is really practically impossible to shoot this any other way, but this is what the gears do. They run in opposite directions. Then this pulley here will be running off from the outside of that one, and then the lower one, the lower set, will run off the inside unit. So these are both fixed, so depending on which way you put tension to the inner belts, like if I put tension on one, it'll tighten up the forward. If I put tension on the other, it'll tighten up the reverse. So this will be a lot easier to visualize once all the belts are actually on here, but that's just a quick overview of how that goes. Now I'm going to measure the belt, see what I'm supposed to have, and hopefully I should be able to order a AA. Can't just use a regular belt or it'll fly right out. So with my simulated belt here, I've got 73 inches and I've got 76 inches with the clutch engaged. So from 73 to 76 inches, and I also have a little bit of play inside the rigging, so if I need to move some things back and forth, I can get like an extra 1.5 inches out of the belts, 2 inches, maybe more. So now I know what size belt I need to get.